The power of thought and perception is the root of all transformation. Everything that you experience, joy, pain, confidence, insecurity, success, failure, it all originates in the mind. Most people never fully understand this, and that's why they stay stuck. They continue reacting to the world around them, blaming circumstances, blaming other people, blaming their past. But the truth is, it's not what's happening outside of you that's shaping your life. It's what's happening inside your mind. You were born with a conscious mind and a subconscious mind. Your conscious mind has the ability to accept or reject thoughts. It can observe, analyze, and make decisions, but the subconscious mind, it does not reason. It accepts whatever it is given: repetition, emotion, trauma, beliefs, and it expresses those ideas through behavior, through attitude, and through results. That's why two people can go through the same experience and have two completely different outcomes. One person may turn pain into purpose, while another collapses under the weight of it. It's not the event, it's the perception of the event. It's not the external situation, it's the internal interpretation of that situation. Most people don't realize that they are carrying around programs, mental codes that were written for them when they were young. These programs come from parents, religion, media, school, and culture. If you were raised in an environment where pleasure was seen as sinful, or sexuality was labeled as dirty, then you were conditioned to feel guilt or shame about your own body, about your desires, about your natural human instincts. That belief doesn't come from truth, it comes from programming, and your thoughts, when repeated often enough, become your truth, even if it's a lie. Thought is the first cause of everything. Every invention, every masterpiece, every act of love or cruelty, every breakthrough in science or business or human potential, it all started as a thought. A thought is like a seed, and the subconscious mind is the soil. If you keep planting seeds of fear, insecurity, guilt, or shame, guess what's going to grow? A life that reflects those emotions. You will attract people, situations, and experiences that match the vibration of those thoughts. On the other hand, if you plant seeds of worthiness, confidence, boldness, and compassion, your life will begin to shift. Not overnight, but inevitably, because your outer world is a mirror of your inner world. This is not wishful thinking. This is science. The human brain has something called the reticular activating system, RAS. It filters information, selects what you notice, what you prioritize, and what you respond to. If your mind is focused on negativity, you'll find more of it. If your mind is focused on freedom, abundance, healing, and love, your brain will literally start noticing and attracting opportunities that match those frequencies. The problem is that most people are letting this system run on autopilot, programmed by old trauma, past relationships, and limiting beliefs. Your perception is the lens through which you view reality, and if that lens is clouded by guilt or shame, then even the most beautiful experiences will appear threatening. You won't feel safe to receive pleasure, you'll push away love, you'll question your value, you'll self-sabotage. Not because you're broken, but because your thoughts told you you're not enough, and the mind, when it believes something deeply enough, will twist reality to make that belief true. Let's say, for example, you grew up hearing that good girls don't talk about sex, or that real men don't show emotion. Those statements don't just fade into the background, they become part of your identity. As an adult, when you feel desire, you might suppress it. When you feel sadness, you might mask it. And now, you're not even living, you're just performing, but perception can be changed. That's the miracle of the human mind. You can rewire your thoughts. You can reframe your memories. You can shift the meaning you've given to your experiences. Changing perception starts with awareness. You have to slow down and observe your thoughts, not judge them. Just become conscious of them. What do you think about when you wake up in the morning? What do you believe about yourself when someone compliments you? How do you interpret rejection? These moments reveal your thought patterns, and once you see the patterns, you have a choice. Do you continue feeding them, or do you interrupt them? You interrupt them by replacing them intentionally, consistently, and emotionally. Affirmations are not magic unless they're felt. When you declare, "I am enough," it has to hit your body, not just your mouth. Your thoughts must be elevated, repeated, and saturated with emotion in order to reach the subconscious. You don't need to argue with the old beliefs. You need to starve them and build new mental associations. Associations where love isn't weakness, pleasure isn't shameful, and your voice is not just allowed, it's necessary. Perception is everything. You are not defined by what happened to you. You are defined by the story you tell yourself about what happened. The mind will believe anything you tell it often enough. So if you want to overcome negative feelings, you have to change the script. Because your thoughts create your emotions create your actions, and your actions create your destiny. And it all begins in the mind. True transformation begins when we stop labeling natural human desires as wrong or dirty. From the time we are young, we are taught to separate ourselves from our instincts. We're told to be good, to be modest, to behave in a way that fits into a narrow mold. But no one tells us that many of the thoughts and feelings we are told to be ashamed of are actually deeply human and deeply powerful. Desire, especially sexual desire, is one of the most misunderstood forces on the planet. It has been covered in layers of fear, guilt, religious control, and cultural judgment. And the result, generations of people walking around feeling disconnected from their bodies, hiding their truth, shrinking their energy, and living half lives. Desire is not weakness. It is not filth. It is not sin. It is creation in motion. It is the stirring of something deeper than logic, deeper than language. It is the essence of life force energy. Every single thing that exists, people, art, music, inventions, connections, was born from desire. The desire to create, to express, to unite, to feel, to expand, and yet we are taught to suppress it. Women are told not to be too much, not to dress a certain way, not to speak too boldly, not to take up too much space. Men are told to dominate, to conquer, to avoid softness, to fear vulnerability. Both narratives are cages. Both are based on fear, and fear is the lowest frequency you can operate from. When you operate from fear, you shrink your capacity to receive. You convince yourself you're not worthy of pleasure, that you're not worthy of being touched, seen, cherished. That your fantasies are shameful, your body is a problem, your needs are embarrassing. And this belief gets buried so deeply in the subconscious that even when someone tries to love you, you don't know how to receive it. You close off, you deflect, you deny, not because you want to, but because the programs in your mind are telling you that pleasure is dangerous, that desire is wrong, that softness is unsafe. But the truth is, nothing is more natural than desire. You were born into a body wired for sensation. You were not created to be numb. You were not created to be at war with yourself. And pleasure, whether emotional, physical, spiritual, or sexual, is not a luxury. It's not something to earn after proving your worth. It is a birthright. The body knows how to feel. The heart knows how to open. The soul knows how to connect. It is only the mind, trained by shame, that gets in the way. When you start embracing your desires without shame, you begin to reclaim parts of yourself that were abandoned long ago. You start to speak differently. You walk differently. You stop apologizing for your truth. You stop asking for permission to be who you are. And people notice, because a person who is aligned with their desire is magnetic, not because of how they look, but because of how they carry themselves. They are not seeking approval, they are not performing, they are being, fully, authentically, boldly. To embrace desire without shame means to listen to your body, to stop silencing the inner voice that says yes or no. To stop judging yourself for what turns you on, what moves you, what lights you up. It means releasing the need to justify your pleasure or explain it away. It means knowing that pleasure is healing. It softens your nervous system. It strengthens your intuition. It brings you into the present moment where real power exists. People who deny themselves pleasure are often the most disconnected from themselves, from others, from joy, from peace. They're surviving, not living. And no, this isn't just about sex, it's about wholeness. It's about letting go of the belief that you have to earn the right to feel good, that you have to wait for permission, that you have to hide your desires because they might make someone else uncomfortable. Your freedom is not supposed to make sense to people who are still in bondage. Your truth will threaten those who are still suppressing their own. But that doesn't mean you stop. That doesn't mean you shrink. That doesn't mean you betray yourself for comfort. The moment you stop labeling your desire as wrong is the moment you start reclaiming your power. Power isn't noise. It isn't ego. Real power is quiet. It's rooted. It's a presence that says, I know who I am, and I trust what I feel. That kind of power can't be faked. And it can't be stolen, but it must be chosen, again and again, in small moments, in big choices, in how you touch yourself, how you speak to yourself, how you allow others to treat you. When you feel shame about your desire, you create separation, separation from your body, separation from intimacy, separation from your divine nature. But when you embrace it, you integrate, you come home to yourself. You realize that desire is not something to be ashamed of, it's a guide. It tells you what you value, what you long for, what you're here to experience, and if you listen closely, it will lead you back to the parts of yourself that were never broken, only buried. How you see yourself and what you believe about the world becomes the filter through which all of your experiences pass. Most people are walking around with beliefs that were never theirs to begin with. They were handed down generation to generation, like war, not clothing that never fit properly in the first place. These beliefs are not facts, they're not truth, but they become truth when you accept them without question and allow them to define your decisions, your self-worth, your behavior, and your future. The subconscious mind is always listening. It stores every word you've ever heard, every message you've ever absorbed, especially the ones that were repeated with emotion. Those messages form your belief system, and your belief system shapes your life quietly, consistently, without fail. Beliefs aren't just mental concepts, they are emotional frameworks. They dictate how much love you allow in, how much money you believe you deserve, how you handle failure, how you show up in relationships, how you respond to your body, your desires, your needs. If you were told you're too emotional, you may grow up believing that vulnerability is weakness. If you were told people like you don't succeed, that seed might grow into a lifetime of self-sabotage. If you saw love modeled as control, pain, or abandonment, you might unconsciously seek out the same dynamics over and over, not because you want to suffer, but because the subconscious believes that's what love is supposed to feel like. The most dangerous beliefs are the ones you don't know you have. They live beneath the surface, silently influencing your choices. They whisper things like, I'm not good enough, I'll never be chosen, people always leave. If I show who I really am, I'll be rejected. And because the mind always seeks to prove itself right, you will unconsciously act in ways that confirm these beliefs. You'll sabotage opportunities, you'll push away healthy love, you'll stay in situations that hurt you because, on some deep level, you believe that's what you deserve. It's not the external world that's holding you back. It's the internal programming that's running the show. You can't create a new life with an old belief system. You can't call in peace while holding onto the belief that you're only worthy when you're struggling. You can't manifest deep, intimate connection while believing you're unlovable. The outer world is a reflection of your inner world, and until you update the blueprint, you'll keep repeating the same patterns in different forms. You might change partners, change jobs, change cities, but the same themes will follow you. That's not coincidence. That's programming, but here's the truth most people never realize. Beliefs are not permanent, they are flexible, they are moldable, they can be rewritten. You were not born believing you were too much or not enough. You were not born with shame. You were not born fearing success or craving validation. Those were taught. And if they were taught, they can be unlearned. The first step is awareness. You have to get brutally honest about the beliefs that are running your life. Ask yourself, what do I believe about love, about my body, about money, about my worth, about pleasure? And more importantly, where did those beliefs come from? Who gave them to me? Are they even mine? Once you bring those beliefs into the light, they start to lose their power. You begin to see them as stories, not facts, and when you change the story, you change the outcome. This is where repetition comes in. The subconscious mind learns through repetition and emotion. That's why affirmations work, not because the words are magical, but because the consistent practice of speaking a new belief eventually reprograms the mind to accept it as truth. But you have to feel it, you have to live it. Saying "I'm worthy" means nothing if every action you take says "I don't believe I am." Your beliefs are reflected in your standards, in your boundaries, in the people you allow into your life, in the opportunities you say yes or no to. And if those things don't align with the belief you say you want to hold, it means you haven't yet internalized it. Beliefs are also shaped by what you expose yourself to. If you are constantly surrounded by people who are negative, judgmental, or living small, it becomes harder to stretch your thinking. Your environment reinforces your current mindset. If you want to shift your beliefs, you must also shift what you consume. Conversations, content, relationships, energy. Feed your mind with possibilities. Read stories of people who overcame. Surround yourself with voices that speak to your expansion. Stop engaging in narratives that keep you locked in fear or scarcity, because your mind is always picking up messages, even when you're not consciously aware of it. To change your beliefs is to change the lens through which you see everything. Suddenly, what used to look impossible begins to look inevitable. What used to feel shameful begins to feel sacred. What used to hurt begins to heal. You start showing up differently, not because you forced yourself to, but because your inner world shifted and your outer world followed. You no longer chase things that aren't aligned. You stop explaining your worth. You stop settling for crumbs. And all of this begins with one quiet, powerful decision: to no longer believe the lie, to choose a new belief, to write a new story, and to live it. Shame is one of the most crippling emotional frequencies a human being can carry. It doesn't just weigh down your heart, it warps your identity. It creeps into how you see yourself, how you relate to others, and how you show up in the world. Unlike guilt, which says "I did something wrong," shame whispers "I am wrong," and that distinction is everything. Because when you believe that something is inherently wrong with you, your body, your past, your needs, your desires, you start to shrink. You censor your truth, you abandon your authenticity, and you begin to live from a place of fear instead of freedom. But shame is not a permanent sentence. It is a form of energy, and like all energy, it can be transformed. It can be moved, redirected, alchemized. What you have to understand is that shame thrives in silence. It grows in secrecy. As long as it stays buried, it controls you. But the moment you bring it into the light by speaking it, examining it, expressing it, you begin to strip it of its power. That's what emotional alchemy is. It's the process of turning shame into strength, of taking something that once made you feel small and transforming it into the very thing that makes you powerful. The first step in this process is recognition. You have to become aware of what you're carrying. What are the parts of yourself that you've been taught to hide? What memories do you avoid? What desires make you feel too much or not enough? What stories have you internalized about your worth, your body, your femininity or masculinity, your pleasure, your mistakes? Most people avoid these questions because they're afraid of what they'll find. But the truth is, avoidance is the very thing that keeps you in bondage. You cannot heal what you refuse to face. Once you recognize shame, the next step is to feel it without judgment. Most of us have been taught to either suppress our emotions or explode with them. But healing happens in the middle ground, in that sacred space where you can sit with your feelings, observe them, breathe through them, and allow them to move through your body. Emotion is energy in motion. If it stays stuck, it becomes toxic. But if it is allowed to flow, it becomes cleansing. Shame might feel heavy, but it is not permanent. It will pass through you if you let it. Cry if you need to. Scream if you must. Write it down. Move your body, but let it move. Then comes the rewriting. This is where you begin to tell yourself a new story. Not the story your parents told you. Not the story religion told you. Not the story your ex projected onto you. Your story, the one where you are not broken, where you are not disgusting, where you are not a burden. But instead, you are human, beautifully, imperfectly, powerfully human. Your past does not define you. Your mistakes do not disqualify you. Your desires are not dirty. Your body is not shameful. Your truth is not too much. This process requires compassion, radical, unrelenting compassion for yourself. You cannot beat yourself into healing. You cannot shame yourself out of shame. The only way out is through love, and not the kind of love that waits for perfection, but the kind that says, even here, even now, I am worthy. That kind of love doesn't come from the outside. It has to be generated from within. You have to become the one who holds space for yourself, who forgives yourself, who sees the child inside you and says, you didn't deserve that, you were always enough. As you move through this alchemical process, you'll begin to notice changes in how you think, feel, and respond. What once triggered you no longer holds the same charge. What once felt unbearable becomes manageable. What once felt like a source of shame becomes a source of wisdom. You begin to reclaim your voice. You start to trust your intuition. You stop seeking validation from people who don't even love themselves. And most importantly, you stop abandoning yourself to make others comfortable. Turning shame into power doesn't mean pretending everything is okay. It doesn't mean putting on a mask and performing confidence. It means doing the inner work to strip away everything that is not truly you. It means standing in your truth even when your voice shakes. It means honoring your body as sacred, your emotions as intelligent, your experiences as valid. Every time you choose to speak your truth instead of hiding, you reclaim a piece of yourself. Every time you choose to say, I am still worthy, in the face of old wounds, you create a new energetic blueprint. And that energy, that new frequency, it begins to radiate. People feel it when you walk into a room. Opportunities shift, relationships change, your posture changes, your decisions change, you no longer chase love, you attract it. You no longer beg for respect, you embody it. You stop pretending to be who the world wants you to be, and you start being who you were always meant to be. Not the version of you shaped by shame, but the version of you who rose from it, the one who alchemized pain into wisdom, wounds into power, silence into truth. The one who chose to live, not just survive. You have the power to consciously reprogram your mind, release guilt, and craft a new self-image that attracts abundance, love, peace, and fulfillment. Your self-image is the blueprint your subconscious uses to determine what's possible for you. It's the foundation upon which your habits, actions, emotions, and results are built. And the most important thing to understand about this self-image is that it wasn't created by you not at first. It was constructed out of the words of others, the experiences you internalized, the comparisons you made, and the silent agreements you made with pain and rejection. Over time, those inputs became fixed ideas. Ideas about what you deserve, what you're capable of, how lovable you are, how much money you can earn, how free you can be in your body, and whether your dreams are realistic. But your self-image is not fixed. It's plastic. It can be reshaped. The subconscious mind does not differentiate between what is real and what is vividly imagined. It simply accepts repeated, emotionally charged suggestions as truth. That means you can use your imagination, not to escape your reality, but to design a better one. To create a mental movie of the person you want to become, a person who speaks with confidence, a person who allows love in, a person who lives without shame, a person who is connected to their body, owns their desires, trusts their voice, and walks into rooms without shrinking. The process begins with identifying the current self-image you're operating from. Without judgment, look at the patterns in your life. What do you keep attracting? What do you tolerate that doesn't align with your values? Where do you hold back? What goals do you abandon halfway through? What kind of relationships are you calling in, and how do they mirror your beliefs about yourself? Your life is always reflecting your self-image back to you. If you believe you're not enough, your reality will continue to validate that belief. If you believe your body is shameful, you'll attract situations that reinforce that disconnection. If you believe your voice doesn't matter, you'll keep quiet, even when your soul is screaming. Changing your self-image is not about forcing yourself to be someone new. It's about remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. It's about peeling away the layers of guilt, fear, doubt, and rejection until what's left is truth. You do this through repetition, through visualization, through intentional language, and through consistent alignment with the version of yourself you want to become. Start imagining that version of you in vivid detail. What do they look like? How do they speak? How do they treat themselves when they fail? What kind of choices do they make? What do they believe they're worthy of? And most importantly, start living in alignment with that version, even before the evidence shows up. If the version of you who feels powerful doesn't beg for attention, then you stop seeking it. If the version of you who loves themselves sets boundaries, then you begin setting them, even when it's uncomfortable. If the version of you who is healed embraces pleasure without guilt, then you start practicing that, one moment at a time. It's not about pretending. It's about conditioning. You are training your subconscious mind to accept a new identity, and that identity will begin to guide you like a compass, shifting your perception, behavior, and results in ways that seem almost magical. This transformation is internal, but it produces external results. When you raise your self-image, the way you walk changes. The way you speak about yourself changes. The energy you radiate changes. People will feel it. Some will be drawn to it. Others will be triggered by it. That's part of the process. When you stop dimming your light to fit into the old story, the people and environments that fed off your smaller self may start to resist. But the ones who are meant for the new version of you will find you. You will begin to attract aligned relationships, deeper connections, opportunities that once felt out of reach. Not because they suddenly appeared, but because you finally became the version of yourself who could receive them. And this doesn't mean you never fall back into old thoughts. Reprogramming the mind is not a one-time event. It's a daily decision. You'll still have moments of doubt, but doubt doesn't mean defeat. You just redirect. You pause, notice the old belief trying to take root again, and choose differently. This is how you build new neural pathways. This is how you create emotional safety around a new identity. By showing up for yourself again and again, by speaking to yourself the way you wish someone had, by treating your desires as sacred, your needs as valid, and your healing as inevitable. Every time you choose a thought that affirms your worth, you are laying a brick in the foundation of your new self-image. Every time you let yourself rest without guilt, speak without apologizing, love without fear, you are sending a message to your subconscious. This is who we are now. And over time, the mind adapts. It no longer clings to old stories. It starts operating from a new set of instructions, ones you wrote, not ones handed to you by pain, shame, or fear.